a good idea to have that read verbatim as it was given to me from the transmissions off the plates, because there are a lot of subtleties that if I were just to try to explain to you our orientation to the law of one, the subtleties probably would have been lost. I hope that you can feel some of the truth that resonates through those work. Between every line, there could have been 20 more, but I don't think there needs to be. We call these the freedom teachings because they are designed, as this time matrix was designed, to allow people to know the freedom of free will choice in their personal relationship with God and with Source. What's happening right now on our planet is a learning drama. If we start looking at it from the highest levels first, once we get down to the lower nitty-gritty levels, it doesn't seem so intimidating. From the higher levels, we are in the middle of a drama that has to do with the path of order and the path of chaos that is talked about in that writing. The path of chaos is the path of the phantom matrix right now in relation to our time matrix. It is not only a path of chaos in terms of what consciousness experiences, it is a path of chaos in terms of the physics upon which its matter base and its hologram are built. Because the physics of the phantom matrix are literally running a reverse mathematical program to the mathematical program of the divine blueprint that allows this hologram in our time matrix to be manifest. Nobody can ever escape God. That doesn't mean God's going to track you to the ends of the universe and drag you home. It means you never leave God in the first place. We're all taking place. All of these reality fields that we speak about and that we're going to learn about take place within Source. You could think of them as thought forms within the mind of God, but that in science terms would imply a brain, and God's beyond the brain, hard technology. We are all directly connected to Source and always will be. But as this is explained, there is a preference, and Source has a preference, to experience itself through the path of order. Because through the path of order, you can retain your memory matrix, and you can know what it means. You can remember all the beings that you were, all the things that you've experienced, and you can remember that while holding full direct at-one-ment with Source. The ultimate destiny, it was called the destiny of sorrow, that is of the path of chaos, is going back to what I loosely call space dust. Space dust is holy. It is sacred. It is blessed. It is conscious. But it is not conscious in the same way as a complex being that has progressively reassembled its divine blueprint memory matrix, turned it all on, and then ascended into full expansion to Source. Because the being who ascends, as opposed to fragments, has full knowing of the significance of what it's achieved, and it can appreciate fully the experience it had in individuation, while it simultaneously knows itself as God. It's an experience that's very hard to put into linear words, because it's implying, here we go, hard to put into linear words. It's implying that once you get into full expansion, to full ascension, and expand fully back into Source with your memory matrix, you have a full cognition of all the things, all the places, all the things that are taking place in the time matrix. They're all happening at the same time. So it's like when you ascend, you remember that you never left. You remember that you were always God and in full expansion with God, and this was like a little virtual reality thought form that you tuned into, and you can tune into more of them. There is so much more to the state of expansion that is called at-one-ment with Source. That got twisted into atonement in some of the teachings and some of the twisted teachings, where you've got to atone in order to get bad. No, in order to get back to God. No, actually you just have to at-one. You have to become expanded back into at-one-ment to know true salvation. We're our own saviors, is what it comes down to. We don't need anything more than the knowledge of the fact that we are an expression of Source, and therefore every quality that we attribute to Source having, we have the ability to embody that quality in some form or another as well. Now, the information that I talked about that has been progressively being given to me as a teaching, and I have been taught to translate the information so that I could teach myself, and then it's kind of like having the privilege to have that information also implied my responsibility of caring enough to continue that information on and not just hold it for myself. The information that is stored on the CDT plates. Now these are metallic objects. I've held them in my hand. There's a set of 12 of them. They are pale silver and they weigh very little when you hold them. When you project certain frequencies through certain chakras at them, you can get them to levitate and spin. And when you hit them with just the right frequency and spin rate, they will literally project a three-dimensional hologram out and run a history record for you, or run a teaching matrix for you. There are various ways to use them. Now, these technologies would not be necessary in a fully Christed civilization. In a fully Christed civilization, those living memory matrices would be imbued and fully conscious within all of the beings there. But because this particular time system has had so much damage done to its divine template, to the grids where it won't hold the divine template, there are blockages in the planetary grids that do not allow certain frequencies of understanding to hold in the grids. There are blockages in the DNA templates of the life forms on this planet. The CDT plates were given at a period of time when this race re-entered the Emerald Covenant after a long period of warring with the fallen angelic legions. And warring in those days were spaceships flying through the skies, I mean, light balls flying around. It was nothing like the little wars we've seen in our recorded history or our known history here. The CDT plates were given to a certain group of the human races that had the commission of being planetary Templar guardians. They were the ones that were going to run the planetary Templar, the Stargates, the energy systems, and protect them. And they were commissioned with teaching the other races that had become lost on the planet, teaching them of the... I think by reading this through, you will, and these pages here are, it's kind of like a capsulization of some of the early front matter in your Templar books. This particular format isn't in the books yet, because I just did this to, so I could put it up on the board and address it. The CDT plates have a huge significance to every religion on this planet. And I wanted to share with you the history of these. Before we get into, okay, what are the teachings that were on them, I want you to understand the significance of the plates themselves and how they have had a direct and dramatic impact on the history that we know, even the history that we know. So we'll start with here. Okay, the Azurite Temple MC books, MC Melchizedek Cloister books, are translations of the ancient Cloister Doritura plate libraries, or CDT plates. The CDT plates are a set of 12 silver metallic holographic recording, data storage, and transmission devices containing the original Emerald Covenant Founders Race teachings, which were provided to inhabitants of our time matrix by the Christos Founders Brenau Rishi races, which we'll find out about later, upon their original seeding of this time matrix, 950 billion years ago, linear time translation. Now, this time matrix, what that says is this time matrix was last seeded 950 billion years ago in terms of linear translation of time. Okay, wait. Thank you. Okay. Now, on the plates, the founders' teachings were given 950 billion years ago. The plates hold record of that, but the plates were not given 950 billion years ago. All right. Now, the CDT plate libraries that this information now is being drawn from were of 246,000 BC. They were created by the Azurite, Maharaji, and Taran priests of Ur. They are Christos races of the Council of Azurline, Universal Stargate 6, Sirius B. Now you learn where the rest of the 12 primary stargates are too. You just learn where Universal Stargate 6 is. It's the Sirius B stargate. The Maharaji races have been a part of our history for eons. In fact, they were a course of evolution that one branch of humanity took before it ended up on planet Earth, when it was still on Tara in density 2, which is Earth's counterpart planet in density 2. Okay, the CDT plates were presented as a gift to the angelic human cloister races of Earth in celebration of Earth's re-entry into the Christos Founders Emerald Covenant Coevolution Peace Treaty. Now, The human cloister races, the angelic human cloister races, as we get through some of the history, we will begin to understand some of the races that we have evolved through that are existing now on Earth in the other time periods. We have Palladia cloisters, we have Urtite cloisters. These are part of the third seeding that I talked about. There were other races that were part of the first and second seeding. The cloister races were the Breatharian races that had the integrity of their DNA templates intact. By the time of this particular event of the CDT plates being given, the cloister races still, even though there had been many eons of war, even in the third seeding, they still had retained their Breatharian ability. Shortly after this, well, shortly is a relative term, there was an event that took place that changed the nature of the genetic code of the cloister race humans in order to live on this planet, because something happened to the planet. There had to be a genetic alteration done that would allow us to be able to survive on the planet, because we couldn't be Breatharians here anymore. Breatharians couldn't pull enough frequency into their fields to maintain their biofields. Now, the CDT plate libraries were given by those races, the Azarites, Maharaji, and Terran priests of Ur from density 2, on behalf of the founders races, the Christos founder races of density 4, and the Brahma Rishi races of density 5, which are in the primal light fields. The human race was created as the Templar, Stargate complex, guardian race of this time matrix 560 million years ago. Humanity is the race originally inhabited, who lived in it, by Janus, ascended masters' souls, the race that was created by Source God and the Christos founders races to carry forward the universal Templar Security Team commission of upholding the integrity of the universal divine Christos blueprint, a commission that was originally held by the Lyran, Siran, Azarite guardian races. Now, as we move through the text of this book, we will come to understand who the Azarites are as well. They existed before the human imprint was created, and they were the original guardians of this time matrix, a race that was created in order to be able to move through the densities to protect and assist in the healing of, when necessary, the Stargate complexes on the planetary, galactic, and universal level. So humans were created 560 million years ago to take over this commission. A new wave of Ascended Master Janus consciousness was going to come in with a body form that was designed to be more tolerant of the carbon-based systems of the lower dimensional fields, because the Azarite body form was more geared toward the higher dimensional fields that are more silica-based. So they couldn't live for very long on a density 1 planet. So because there were problems happening in all of the lower densities with the fallen angelic collectives, the human collective, the human imprint, was created that had more flexibility than the Azarites did, so they could enter the, let's say, war zones of the lower dimensional fields and not have their bodies deteriorate because of it. Okay? Throughout a long history of war and conflict initiated by the Antichristos fallen angelic races, the angelic human cloister races of 246,000 BC Earth had once again temporarily freed Earth's Templar from abusive fallen angelic control. The angelic human cloister races, which are the predecessors of the Indigo children, led remaining Earth races into the Christos Founders Emerald Covenant Coevolution Peace Treaty, through which Earth's planetary divine blueprint, the original D12 pre-matter template, that's what that means, divine blueprint, was intended to be restored in order to permanently set Earth, its inhabitants, and this time matrix free from fallen angelic manipulation, exploitation, and imprisonment. The Emerald Covenant CDT plates of 246,000 BC were given to the cloister race human 12 tribes, 144,000 people, 12 tribes of 12,000, who served as the Templar security team on Earth, the Stargate security team, to replace the older CDT plate libraries that had been destroyed during the earlier periods of fallen angelic invasion and dominion of Earth. So there had been other sets of CDT plates, but most of them had fallen into the hands of fallen angelics, and they would try to get the knowledge off them and use it, in anti-Christos ways. So the founders would usually deactivate the plates, so you literally like erase the memory bank so they couldn't be used. Once that happened, they were no good. So another set had to be made if they were going to be reintroduced on a planet. Okay. The Emerald Covenant CDT plates hold the honest ascended masters, which are beyond the time matrix, the 15-dimensional time matrix beyond that, and the Christos founder races, D12 through 15, original teachings on sacred spirituality, divine science, and Masters Universal Templar mechanics, as well as the signet maps and keys to the universal, galactic, and planetary stargates, and a complete history record of this time matrix since its creation point 950 billion years ago, including record of future history, simultaneous time probability fields, and the future evolution of present races. Now, the future is happening now. What we do with ourselves individually and collectively will determine which future probability we will see. We have to basically, if you want it in real simple terms, line up our vibrational frequency with the vibrational frequency of the reality field in the future that we want to be a part of. That's what we're doing on a planetary level with the grid work that we're doing. And that's what we're doing on a personal level when we realign our own divine blueprint. We're getting ourselves back into the cycles of time that lead us into, from what we call present, to the future place in space-time that is part of the divine blueprint as well. If we are functioning with distortions in our divine blueprint down here, that will take us into a probability that is not the full divine blueprint of the intended evolutionary destiny of a race or a planet. So we literally have all these other futures. All these futures are happening right now. And what we do personally and collectively as a whole on the planet will determine which one we are going to see, which particular hologram we are going to see as our linear progression. Okay, let's see. The CDT plate records were created to assist the angelic human races of Earth in re-educating other evolving races on Earth and in this time matrix about the path of true ascension, the divine blueprint, the universal Christos, the personal inner Christos, the law of one, and the loving source God from which all existence emerges. The technological divine creation physics mechanics knowledge of the CDT plate teachings was provided to the Emerald Covenant Angelic Human Guardian races of Earth to assist them in fulfilling their chosen and Source God appointed role as guardians and keepers of the sacred Templar in this time matrix. Now, if we weren't given the divine science teachings, the technology as well, as far as how Stargates operate and how all of this operates, we wouldn't be competent guardians of the Templar complexes. You have to know how it works to be able to tell if anything's going wrong with it. You have to know how to fix it if it is. So the reason why, there's a lot of twisted teachings that have come out in the last 25,000 years that have told us we had no right to that knowledge. Only God should know that. That information was given to us by God so that we could more fully allow the divine blueprint and God's will to express here and to keep that alive and to keep the integrity of this time matrix. This knowledge was given to the human races upon their creation so they could fulfill the job they were created to do. So we have a right to the knowledge. CDT plates, signet shields, and the Maharata text. This is where it starts to get interesting. The 12 CDT plate recorder discs also served as primal current receivers and transmitters and worked in conjunction with a related divine Templar technology called the signet shields. The word signet refers to Stargate. The signet shields were a set of 12 larger silver discs. They resemble hubcaps. I've seen one of them. That, when activated, provided the angelic human guardian races with the ability to manually direct the function of Earth's 12 primary stargates and related interdimensional time portal and dimensional lock systems. So you have a set of 12 CDT plates that hold a bunch of information, but they also are devices that have the ability to receive and transmit interdimensional current from the highest levels of the primal light fields and the primal sound fields. When those discs are used with the larger discs that are called shields, and they actually expand in size. The shields look like about a hubcap, and they're kind of like donut-like, and with a little dip in the center. I've seen one of them. When you put a disc for a plate into the shield and activate the disc, it will activate the shield. Now the shields, when they are used properly, have the ability to open and close the planetary stargates. This technology was given to us as the guardians of this planet so that we would be able to control the opening and closing, because ideally what was intended here was to be able to keep the stargates open, because when you do that, you have perpetual free energy. It's called an Ascension planet, where you continually have the D12 primal life force frequencies moving through the planetary grids. So you have free energy systems, and you don't have healing issues on planets like that. And fully, when the stargates are fully opened, that implies the planetary grids are fully functional, which implies the planet is in its divine Christos state, which implies it's more like a reality field to go have fun with. You don't have issues of pain and suffering and wars and all of those things that come with grid distortions. So these technologies exist, and a set of the signet shields was given to the human races along with the 12 CDT plate discs. Now, it's interesting as we go through, we'll find out where they all ended up, because they're still with us. They're still on planet. All right, so the signet shields were a set of 12 larger silver discs resembling hubcaps that, when activated, provided angelic human guardian races with the ability to manually direct the function of Earth's 12 harmony stargates and related portal systems. The 12 CDT plates served as activators for the 12 signet shields. Each signet shield CDT plate set was encoded with the mathematical activation programs of one of the 12 primary stargates in Earth Templar. The 12 tribe angelic human cloister races of Earth were appointed by Source God to serve as Templar guardians and keepers of the signet shields and CDT plate discs. Now, the 12 tribes, each of the 12 tribes was appointed custodian over one of the 12 CDT plate shield sets and one of the stargates. So you had 12 tribes of humans on the planet, and each of them had in their DNA coding that matched the particular stargate of one of the 12 on the planet that it was keyed to. So tribe 1 was keyed to Stargate 1, tribe 2 to Stargate 2, etc. The first externally written translation of the new CDT plates, the new ones referring to the 246,000 BC ones, the first externally written translation was created in 246,000 BC, right after they were given, by the Urtite cloister human race Templar guardians. The resultant collection of large books were called the Sacred Maharata, which means Inner Christos texts. The Maharata texts existed as a set of 590 condensed text volumes, totaling over 500,000 pages. The Maharata text books, CDT plate translations, were handwritten on semi-translucent vellum textile paper pages. It was a technology they had back then. You know how they tell us when paper was invented here? Well, that was the last time it was invented here, because there were technology. If you have CDT plates, paper is not going to be a problem. But it was a different type of paper than anything we have here. I've seen these books still exist, and that they were one of the things that I was allowed to spend some time with when I was taken to Inner Earth. And they're awesome. The books are huge. Well, the people were bigger then too. The people are like, 12 feet tall, 7 to 12 feet tall, so their books were kind of bigger, their hands were bigger and things. But these volumes still exist, the original set of them that was made in 246,000 BC. Okay, they were handwritten on semi-translucent vellum textile paper pages in the original Anahazi language. The Anahazi language was the Elohai Elohim Anahazi language. They were the Christos founders races from density 4 and 5, okay? It was the first external language in our time matrix. So it was the original language out of which every other language in this whole time matrix came. So this is the language, the Anahazi language is the language that the original translations of the Maharata texts were written in. Right now, most of us would have had a very hard time reading those texts, because right now our DNA is blocked in a way that we can't even synthesize some of the sounds, not to mention remember the alphabet. When we work with the technologies that are in both Cathara healing and in this Templar course, there are certain sounds and certain songs and things that we use that are in the original Anahazi language, the portions of it that we are capable of actually speaking right now. Before we leave tonight, I would like to do one song that for people who took the Cathara workshop, you'll probably remember. It's the song Alira. It's the Christos invocation song, and it brings a burst of your own D12 frequency down, and it just affects me like nothing I've ever felt. We will sing that, and that will be an example of the Anahazi language. Just a tiny example. But these texts, these 590 huge books with over 500,000 pages collectively, are in the Anahazi language. The vellum pages were assembled into large format, leather-bound volumes. Oh, they use leather. Oh dear, does that mean they kill animals? I can see the question in a lot of people's mind. There was a difference in what happened back then in relation to animals and what happens now. What we do now in our societies is we kill animals. There's not an agreement made on a conscious level. Fortunately, the animals know that there's an agreement made on the soul levels, that they're allowing themselves to be persecuted the way we are doing it here in our societies. Back then, humans and animals understood each other. When an animal consciousness was ready to leave, it would make an agreement, and particularly with the human races who had the ability to telepathically communicate with animals and plants and things. There would be agreements made. And literally, in those days, there wasn't even the thrill of the hunt. Right? Now, like, there are still native cultures that have managed the ability to, okay, we need something, we're going to hunt. Whoever's ready, you know, let's play the game, and they'll go hunting. That's what's now. Like, even in the Native American cultures, they still have that. But back then, it wasn't even that. Animals would lay down, and they would appreciate the fact that the angelic humans were there, because the angelic human energy field was like a set of stairs, the stairway to heaven. The angelic human field held frequencies that, if the consciousness passed out of density 1 in the presence of an angelic human, they would be able to ride those extra frequencies up so they could accelerate their evolution and go into density 2 without having to come back down into density 1 cycles. So there was an understanding where literally, when things were ready to die, they frequently came and laid at the feet of humans so they could be near them, so they could have an exchange. What was left of the animal body would sometimes be used, sometimes simply be transmuted. In those days, the angelic humans didn't have to use knives and things. They had technologies where they could direct frequency that makes laser technology now look infantile. When it came to processing things like leather to make these books, it was a process that was done through transmutation to get the pelt off the bone. It wasn't as bloody and messy as it is now. But these leather books were, I've seen them, and they're like about this big, and they're huge. They're like, you know, so thick you can't put your hand around them. The leather on these is still the original leather, 246,000 BC. That's old leather. There's not a crack in it. It's as supple as it was when it was first put on. There were qualities that were retained in the body forms and what was left after the animals left because of the agreements they had with the humans. The animals ascended, so it left certain types of chemical compositions within the body that wouldn't have been there if they had died any other way. That created almost like the leather is still alive. It still carries a part of the animal with it, and the animal finds, wherever it has evolved to, finds a great reverence for the fact that it knows a part of itself is holding literally within its skin the divine teachings of the Maharata. So there was a whole spiritual agreement taking place between the animals involved with this. I wanted to explain that because I know people that are, you know, that are into the vegetarian movement especially might go, oh, leather books, you know. Okay, all right.